All right, folks, welcome in to the latest edition of Three Dog Thursday on the Winning Cures Everything platform. I am the somewhat competent host, last week's Underdogs aside, TJ Rives. And no, Gary Seeger's not able to be here because of timing again on this Thursday afternoon with his other work duties, his BetUS show, the other Winning Cures content. So I've got more able-bodied help. Brian Edwards is back with me from MajorWager.com, Southeastern 16, the website and the podcast where he's also an analyst. I have had him on Three Dog Thursday for years, and he still returns the call and the text message whenever I put the bat signal up. Thank you for being here, Brian. I'm looking forward to talking underdogs in college football here on the Winning Cures Everything platform for a Thursday. How are things in your world?
Things are good, TJ. Thanks for having me. Other than Scott Strickland still having a job and Billy Bob Napier still having a job, things are going well.
Yeah, your beloved Gators are circling the bowl after the blowout loss to Texas. We will touch on the LSU game in a little bit. It's been rough. That's for sure for Florida for this year. Anyway, thank you for finding us. Thank you for finding Gary's platform, Winning Cures Everything, and the Winning Cures Everything YouTube page, the website, all of his great content. Again, we cohabitate here on Thursday with underdogs on the program. We're simply, Brian and I, looking for three of them, just looking to cover in college football here on the program. And I can already tell you up front, he and I are in agreement on one of them, the first one coming up here in a few moments. But we'll get discussion on several different games with the underdogs. Brian, the college football playoff rankings have been out for a couple of weeks. Things are beginning to narrow down. This is really the first time you and I on the record have gotten to talk this entire college football season. Gary and I keep talking about this is going to be wild with the 12-team playoff, and can we not make an argument real quick that maybe 10, 12 or more teams could emerge as participants in the championship game, if not win the thing? Do you agree with that?
I would probably trim it down a little, but I mean, definitely at least a half dozen. Gosh, here, let me get some rankings in front of me, and then I can.
But let me give you that at the top where it's top heavy, where you have teams like Oregon, like BYU that are undefeated up at the top, and then you've got teams, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Penn State, K-State, all the way, Clemson, all the way up at the top. I really honestly, and I'm probably leaving somebody out of that list, I really honestly believe you could mix and match any combination out of that group, and it would not surprise me in a 12-team playoff who's going to be able to win 2 or 3 games and get to the title game. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with your premise. There's not a great team that's, shown itself to be way beyond everybody else. That does not exist this year. So I agree with the premise, but I mean, I don't think BYU can win it. I don't think Indiana can win it. I think Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, if they get there, I think those teams can win it.
What about Miami? Miami took the loss last week. They've lived dangerously. Do you see them as a championship game type contender?
I mean, if Cam Ward just played out of his mind, yeah, I guess on any given day they could probably beat anybody. But I just in general, I would say very unlikely. But I'd give it a puncher's chance, I guess.
Still, it's going to be crazy to watch all of this unfold. And why don't we roll the sleeves up and get right in with what we do on Three Dog Thursday, whether you're seeing us on the video show on the Winning Cures platform or only hearing us on podcast. Come find the video, Gary's YouTube page, his website, winningcureseverything.com, the Winning Cures YouTube page, or go find the podcast. As I like to say, take us in your ears, on your earbuds, on your car, with the Bluetooth, whatever, and you can hear us describing what we think about college football. Let's begin in the Big 12, and you and I actually are in agreement here on a game Friday night where the Houston Cougars and the Arizona Wildcats are playing. We got to get used to this. This is a Big 12 game now. At Arizona, both teams off a bye week. Arizona's been one of the most disappointing teams, I think, Brian, to this point in the season. Both teams off a bye. Houston's been good as of late. And Arizona yet is a small favorite in Tucson. Give me why you like Houston for Three Dog Thursday here.
Well, big-time head coaching advantage for Houston. Houston's in much, much better form, having won 3 of its last 4, both straight up and against the spread. I mean, they won by double digits at TCU as a 16-point dog. They beat K-State at home the last time out as a 13-point dog. They also beat Utah as a 5-point dog. And if we go back to Willie Fritz's days at Tulane, his last 8 games as a road underdog, his teams are 7-1 against the spread. And look, they've been really good defensively all year. They're ranked 23rd in the nation in total defense, 25th against the pass, number 42 in scoring, giving up only 22 points per game. But you got to remember that they had 2 games they got bageled. They had another game where they had only 7, and another game where they only had 12. So, I mean, half the season the defense wasn't getting any help from the offense. The offense has been a little bit better here lately. I mean, well, not that great. I mean, 30 at TCU, 24 against K-State, but even the win over Utah, they only had 17 and only had 14 at KU. But like you, and I'll let you maybe speak a little more to this as I give it back to you.
The kid they've gone to, Zion Chris, the transfer from Louisiana Monroe at quarterback, he's made such a difference for the offense as a dual threat. I mean, they were inept, Brian, before he began playing regularly.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And he's taken pretty good care of the football with 3 touchdowns, 1 interception here the last 2 games. Gosh, where was I going? But you mentioned how, but like 2 teams going in different directions. I mean, Arizona is just really struggling, and I'll kind of let you have that. But, 5 in a row in the L column and 6 of 7, both straight up and the ATS.
And if this game is at Houston, you would be making Houston at least a 3-point favorite, right? And the only equalizer for Arizona is that they are at home. They've been a disappointment. Fafita, the quarterback's been a turnover machine. They got blown out a couple of different times by BYU, by Colorado. Again, this seems easy. What do we know? This is Friday night, 8:15 Mountain Time, 9:15 Central Time. FS1 Cable has it. You and I say doggy number 1 is the Houston Cougars, and suddenly Willie Fritz might have this team bowl eligible before it's over. They got to get a couple of more wins. You and I believe they're going to get one here Friday night in his first season where they were greatly undermanned when he showed up. He had 40 players leave due to either using up the eligibility or the transfer portal, and his team is starting to come around. So that's underdog number 1. You and I in agreement for 3 Dog Thursday on the Houston Cougars out of the Big 12 with Arizona. I'll tee you right up for underdog number 2, and you are going to the SEC. We see you, we hear you on Southeastern 16 and the coverage there. What SEC underdog do you like for Saturday?
I like the Razorbacks, and if your number is 13.5, let's buy that half point of the key number of 14. So during Sam Pittman's 5-year tenure, Arkansas has been a double-digit underdog 14 times, and they are 10-4 against the spread in those spots. And they are actually, as I go to my tweet here, they are actually in their last 5 such spots, they are 5-0. Against the spread. So Pittman's just been good as an underdog in general. Now, he's kind of had some home dog bad luck here recently, obviously the Ole Miss game. So he's only 8-6 overall as a home dog ATS, but the double-digit dog is where he's been really good, like the outright win against Tennessee earlier this year. And Jaquindon and the spot favors them. Texas played last week. Not that it was a tough game against my Gators, but Arkansas's had 2 weeks to shake off the Ole Miss game, prepare, and it came at a good time because Jaquindon Jackson and Taylor Green were both probable on the SEC initial injury report that comes out on Wednesday nights at 8 Eastern. They're both probable, and so that was all I needed to see to be like, okay, I'm in on Arkansas, because Jaquindon Jackson was having a hell of a year. Now, he's missed the last 2 games, got banged up early in the LSU game, but he had 10 rushing touchdowns, at the by early October, and he's averaging about 6 yards a carry, and has got nearly 600 yards. So with him back and Taylor Green back, because Green left or didn't play like the second half of the Ole Miss game because he's got his knee banged up. So with that, I'll go with Arkansas but let's buy that half point of 14.
Interesting that Texas, and I don't mean to bring it up in a negative way because Florida's taking their lumps, they really wiped Florida out last week. And you wonder here, because they did not have to battle at all, cruise control at home, and this is an early start in Fayetteville, if maybe Arkansas can jump on them a little bit. Brian, just follow up on that point real quick. I know you love the Hogs anyway, but what about it?
Yeah, and look, now that we've are this deep into the season, none of these wins for Texas are aging very well. In fact, we're probably going to get to the end of the year, and the only team, if they beat A&M, that would be their only win over a ranked opponent, and the only other team ranked is Georgia, like currently. All right, Vanderbilt was ranked at one point, maybe even for that game when they played them. But yeah, like, Mississippi State unranked, Oklahoma unranked, Michigan unranked,
Yep.
and what are they, 5-5, or maybe it might be one game over 500. Colorado State's got a winning record, but UTSA's had a disappointing year. ULM's got a winning record, but that's a Sun Belt team. So, and you know what? This is interesting. If Texas loses one of these last three, it might get a little hairy for them to get into the CFP, because what win will they have to really stand on?
Right.
Nothing so far.
Even the impressive wins. So, I mean, the big thing for them, can they get into the SEC title game? They're still vying for that. Same thing Georgia's vying for. Same thing Ole Miss. Same thing Alabama. Going to be a round-robin battle down the stretch here with all of this. Again, I love Brian's insight. By the way, if you're only hearing us, follow him at Vegas B. Edwards on social media, on Twitter, X, etc. Vegas B. Edwards. Find him at majorwager.com. Majorwager.com as well, with his handicapping and his picks. You're locked in on 3 Dog Thursday. TJ Rives with you. If you're only hearing us, come find us, see what we look like on the Winning Cures Everything platform while we go through the underdogs. Brian, a good time to mention our sponsor here on Winning Cures at 3 Dog Thursday. That's TicketSmarter. If you're trying to go to that Texas-Arkansas game early, Clemson at Pitt, I know Oregon is at Camp Randall against Wisconsin. Any of these games, massive game for BYU at the end of the night with Kansas, USC and Nebraska at the Coliseum. I don't care where you're going across the country to any of this college football. Use our friends at TicketSmarter, the TicketSmarter mobile app. Why? Most competitive prices on the secondary market. Your purchase is safe and secure, and you're going to get a promo code offer from us. Take $10 off an order of $100 or more. For the better seats, you're not going to get a better seat for under $100. So take $10 off with WCE10 to take $10 off. If your order is $300 or more, a couple of seats, Brian, to these big-time games, you're not getting those two good seats for under $300. $300 or more, promo code WCE20. So use either one of those promo codes with TicketSmarter, the mobile app. Your purchase is safe and secure. It's guaranteed. And the best, most competitive prices on the secondary market are found at TicketSmarter. TicketSmarter, get in the game. Think smarter, TicketSmarter. All right, so you've given me two. I joined with you on Houston. I owe another one. Let's go to the American Athletic Conference here, and Navy and Tulane. Tulane undefeated. Tulane, one of those teams along with Army that's maybe vying for the group of 5 spot in the college football playoff. This game at Annapolis. This game with Tulane favored by 7 in it. Mensa, the quarterback. They've got the good running back as well at Tulane. Navy, I saw them here in Tampa last week against South Florida. They have bounced back from the Notre Dame loss and the Rice loss. The quarterback, Horvath, who is their leading rusher as a quarterback, Brian, the option quarterback, has 800 yards rushing. He looked more like himself, looked healthy in that game against USF last week. Navy's been quite a story. All right, I even have a number, Brian, for you here. Navy in their last 10 at home, ATS 7-2-1. Now, that's in my favor. In the last 12 games for Tulane as a favorite, they're 10-2. So I got two things working here. One of them's against me. Tulane is 10-2 in the last 12 as a favorite, but Navy is 7-2-1 in their last 10 games ATS at home. I get 7 points. A thought on the early game. Navy and Tulane, both of these teams still alive for the American Conference title game. A thought from you, Brian.
Well, Navy was really rolling, and Blake Horvath was, up there toward the top. Him and the Army quarterback were like at the
Right.
top of the country in QBR, which is the last place you would think an Army and Navy QB would be. Now, that takes into account rushing yards and whatnot. Obviously, they're both very good at that. But then, they kind of just come up against a team more talented than them in Notre Dame. And then the Rice game was the real head scratcher, but it was Rice after they fired their coach. And sometimes, you just get a Herculean effort. And maybe they were, maybe they let the Notre Dame game beat them twice. But whatever the case, like you said, they bounced back last week against USF. And, maybe Tulane should be on upset alert. That will be interesting. Tulane should have beaten Kansas State, and they would be, talking about hopefully
Right, even more. And I may have misspoke. They're not completely undefeated. They're undefeated in the American right now, chasing Army. Tulane and Army are the two teams that control their own destiny to meet each other in the title game. The Navy midshipmen and my Memphis Tigers are lurking if Tulane and Army suffer losses here to maybe slide into the American title game. Again, this game at noon in Annapolis, it's Mekhi Hughes. That's the 1,200-yard running back for Tulane. Again, since that loss that Brian referenced they lost two games to Kansas State and Oklahoma. They have now rolled off 7 wins in a row, beat Temple 62-6 their last time out. I mean, this may take a lot of points for Navy, but I like them here in this spot. I will take them and the 7 for my second of 2 underdogs. We have 1 underdog each. Give me your third underdog, Brian Edwards of MajorWager.com for 3 Dog Thursday. Where are you headed?
So let's go up to Ames, Iowa, and let's go with the Cincinnati Bearcats, who are 5-4 straight up, 4-4-1 ATS. But they could easily be 8-1. They had a 27-10 lead with a minute left, or less than a minute left in the third quarter against Pitt. And Pitt rallied to win 28-27. They missed 2 field goals and threw a pick 6 in a 44-41 loss at Texas Tech. And that's the push on their resume. But that was a win for me. I'd gotten them +4 early in the week. And then last week, they out-yarded West Virginia 436-248. They out first down them 24-10 and had nearly 10 minutes of time of possession edge on them as well. But up 7-0 in the red zone, a 4th and 1. They throw a 79-yard pick 6. And then West Virginia got another defensive touchdown, and that just kind of skewed the game. I just think Cincinnati's way better than their record suggests. Now, Iowa State, 0-3 ATS slide, have lost back-to-back games outright. And, I made Iowa State a 6-point favorite in this game. And since he's catching 9 or 9.5, if your number's 9.5, I'd buy the half point to 10, assuming it's only -120 juice. Because Brendan Sorsby had 2 bad turnovers last week, but man, he's been good to me this year. He's got a 16-5 TDI&T ratio and 7 rushing touchdowns, 2,387 passing yards. He's a player, and I know he'll be looking to make amends for those costly mistakes he made last week. So I like Cincinnati plus 9-ish.
Yeah, they have been good for 3 Dog Thursday purposes, the Bearcats. But again, the turnovers were costly for them last week. And what is up with Iowa State? I mean, we love Rocco Becht, the Iowa State quarterback from the Tampa Bay area, the son of Anthony Becht, the former NFL tight end, the former number 1 pick of the New York Jets. But, Rocco had problems in the Texas Tech game. They lost the Texas Tech game, and then last week they were shell-shocked at Arrowhead against Kansas. Are we concerned psychologically for Iowa State real quick? And that's another reason why you're back in Cincinnati.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I'm sure Cincinnati's psychologically scarred as well. They literally are just like 3 plays away from being 8-1, which,
sure.
There's nobody sitting around thinking, oh man, Satterfield's team's 3 plays away from being 8-1, but they really are. So who knows where each team's psyche is, but we're getting 9-ish with the Bearcats, and I think we got the quarterback advantage as well. So I'm all about the Bearcats here.
All right, he'll take Cincinnati and the 10 points for that game at Iowa State coming up on Saturday for his third underdog. And I owe you one more as well. And this is interesting. I have not to this point, I don't believe, I got to double check here in the first 11 weeks, played a Mountain West team. If I have, it was very early on in the year, but that is exactly where I am headed, Brian Edwards here, and that is to go to New Mexico for a matchup between New Mexico and Wazoo. Washington State has been rolling now 8-1 on the season, but they are laying 10.5 points. A New Mexico team that seems to have found itself. Devon Dampier is the quarterback for New Mexico, who's not only the leading passer with 2,400 yards, he's the leading rusher as well with 800 yards. He does have 12 interceptions on the year. But Dampier and New Mexico, Brian, seem to have found something this game in Albuquerque after they suffered 4 early losses on the season. They have now won 4 of their last 6. One of the losses was a close game to Wyoming 2 weeks ago, a 49-45 wild game in Albuquerque. They also lost to Colorado State. But, I mean, they've got wins over Air Force, over Utah State. They beat San Diego State last week. Dampier was good in that game, scored the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter to lead that victory. So they are 4-2 in their last 6, Brian. The Lobos are 4-2 ATS in their last 6. I think 10.5 is too many against Washington State. Give me Wazoo. Do you have any thought here on this? It's been a little weird for Washington State and Oregon State because they're playing all these Mountain West teams, even though they're not in the Mountain West. And now they're suing each other, Oregon State, Washington State, and the Mountain West, because Oregon State and Washington State want to start the new Pac-12. So maybe this is a vengeance game for New Mexico as well on Saturday night in Albuquerque. Any quick thought on Wazoo being that big of a favorite?
Well, I think Bronco Mendenhall's done a heck of a job with this team. I mean, they've been feisty from the beginning. I mean, the game at Auburn is a very misleading final. That game was close in the third quarter. And, you know, they've put up a ton of points all year long. I mean, they had 3 games in a row where they had at least 50 and 4 out of 5 where they had at least 45. Yep. So offense has not been a problem. It's been the defense, but, you know, they hold Colorado State to 17 in Fort Collins. And I know San Diego State's doesn't have a dynamic offense, but holding them to 16. So maybe the defense is coming around a little bit. So yeah, no, I have no beef with your play on the Lobos.
All right. Lobos will be underdog number 3, getting the 10.5. We'll review those in a moment. By the way, here on 3 Dog Thursday, look at my savvy. We have one more sponsor to show you, and that's our friends at Go Sleeves. If you're looking for the therapeutic kinesiology sleeves, Brian, and for the audience, for the elbows, for the knees, the calves, if you work out, you're running, you're playing pickleball, basketball, biking, golfing, Go Sleeves. Go check them out. Use the promo code WCE for the discount. Great kinesiology technology, as I like to say. They help you therapeutically with blood flow to recover quicker. Again, for the elbows, the knees, the calves, get those sleeves at Go Sleeves. Promo code is WCE from our friends at Go Sleeves. With that, we're in our remaining moments here on 3 Dog Thursday. We did not cover Tennessee, Georgia. I don't know how you trust Tennessee as that big of an underdog with Georgia, with Nico, the quarterback. We don't know on Thursday here if he can play. Any thought on that game? I know you talk about it a lot, Georgia and Tennessee on Southeastern 16 on the website and on the podcast that you do with them. Any thought on this with Nico hurt real quick?
Yeah, just I just don't think you can play the game without knowing Nico's status. But you know, I mean, Florida should have beaten both of these teams, and my Gators are awful. If Lagway doesn't get hurt, I'm 95% sure Florida wins that game. And if Billy Bob Napier was not painting his masterpiece in incompetence, his absolute Mona Lisa in the first half, and Florida had 4 red zone trips and 3 combined points, then Florida wins that game easily as well. So to be honest, I don't think either of these teams are that great. But I made the number 7. I think you can trust Tennessee more than you can trust Georgia. If Nico gets upgraded and I could still get 10, I might get involved with Tennessee. I mean, because Georgia, I mean, Beck has just been absolutely horrendous here lately. Right. I mean, I don't know. This guy's cost himself tens of millions of dollars lately. So let's see here. He has got 2 touchdown passes compared to 7 interceptions in the last 3 games.
Yep.
He's thrown 9 interceptions the last 4 games and 12 interceptions the last 6 games.
Something is clearly up there, and Ole Miss was all over them with the pass rush last week. Let's see if that's a factor for Tennessee. Hey, early Coach Prime, Colorado against Utah. My hand is up. Colorado's shutting a lot of people up with how they're playing. Sleepy spot, 10 a.m. start for both of these programs in the Mountain Time Zone. Utah was good late last Saturday night, but BYU beat them at the end. They're getting double figures. Any quick thought? That's the big noon game on Fox. Any quick thought on that game?
The number seems inflated, but Brant Kuithe now out for the season. I just don't know what Utah's got left in the tank, and they're just inept offensively, especially without Kuithe. That I can't back Utah, but the number does seem a little bit rich, but it's a pass for me.
Is the bigger game not Kansas and BYU in that conference at the end of the night? At BYU with them undefeated, and Kansas, I think, could be a live dog. I was close to taking them on 3 Dog Thursday, but it's at Provo. Any quick thought on that before we scoot?
Well, they're a very popular dog. Everybody that I've listened to on radio and VSiN podcast, everybody seems to love Kansas this week. So that would be the one thing that would scare me a little bit about Kansas. I kind of lean the other way. I know that we're not supposed to like favorites on this show.
Well, that's okay. You can and say stay away from Kansas. And, man, Brigham Young has lived dangerously and continued to win, including the last-second drive to beat Oklahoma State at home, the last-minute drive to get the win over Utah, the controversial win with the penalty call, the bogus penalty call. They get the win, and are they going to be viable, undefeated, maybe for the college football playoff? We'll see. I do know this. I love Brian's insight in handicapping. He and I agree on Houston in the Big 12 Friday night with Arizona to win outright. We'll take them as the underdog. Brian also has Arkansas against Texas early Saturday, as well as Cincinnati back in the Big 12 with Iowa State getting 10 points. He gets 13.5 with Arkansas. He gets 10 with Cincinnati. I'll take Navy in the American Conference plus the 7 with Tulane early Saturday and New Mexico. Hello, Lobos. Late Saturday night for Bronco Mendenhall's team, like Brian said, against Washington State, getting 10.5 at home. With that, Brian, thank you for hanging with me. I always appreciate you. I look forward to talking with you again. College football, college basketball. They need to go to majorwager.com as well as Southeastern 16, the site and the podcast to find Brian's content there. Anything else I left out, my friend? Great stuff.
Oh, no, thanks for having me. Just throw out I'm looking at some dogs for next week, the look-ahead lines. You got some pretty decent teams as double-digit underdogs. You got Texas is minus 21 to Kentucky. You've got Vandy's plus 11 at LSU. Florida's plus 11 at home to Ole Miss. Not implying to take the Gators. Indiana's plus 11.5 at the Shoe. I'm just noticing these DraftKings look ahead.
Interesting.
So I brought it up. But thanks for having me. Enjoyed it as always.
Listen, love it. And again, whether you found us on winningcureseverything.com, the video page, the YouTube page, or the site, or you're hearing us on podcast, we're going to be here talking college football and the underdogs. For Brian Edwards and for Gary Seegers, he'll be back soon. Just check out all of Gary's other content on Winning Cures on the platform, but he'll be back with me soon. I'm TJ Rives. It's 3 Dog Thursday. We'll